Welcome, Tech for O channel. I'm Michael. It's time to review more cool tech. But first, let me remind you about a trend that we have in the drone world overall in the past months. Good drones are getting cheaper, and for the price you pay, you get better quality and more features. So I'm presenting you today's contender, the Bayangtoys X22, which is here to prove these statements wrong. You heard me right. It proves these statements wrong. Not that it can't fly, actually it flies pretty well, but it's all about the details and what you get for the price you pay. Let's go and check it out. The X22 is based on the X21 model, which is not that different to the older X16. In fact, the Bayangtoys X16 is one of these big impact models for small money that challenged the older Phantoms. I'm still using the X16 on a regular basis when testing action cameras. This is one of my favorite drones to fly with, despite its imperfections. I cannot hide that I had very high expectations of this new model, and probably this has contributed to my slight disappointment in this upgrade. The hope was to get a drone with decent 3-axis gimbal that will support any kind of action camera, and I was expecting a serious step up in terms of performance compared to the older X16, and a lot of new features on top of it. Turns out there hasn't been much of development effort, and we can find a lot of things which are well known from the X generations. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. The unboxing experience is almost the same as with the X16, a good-looking box which utilizes the space to the maximum. You need to have basic knowledge about assembling drones, because the landing gear and the props are not mounted, and we can recognize the good old banana type connector, meaning that the X22 uses the same battery as its predecessors. Easy to find and purchase, but tough to get quality batteries. Beware, most of these that you will find in AliExpress at tempting prices are of pretty low quality. Spend a few more bucks and get something decent from a reputable seller. The propellers are supposed to be self-tightening, but don't trust this. Make sure to firmly tighten them while you're preparing for your first flight, otherwise the fate of the drone can be rather miserable. Because of this possibility, it is very unlikely manufacturers to use this kind of mounting in 2018, but Bayanhtoys don't seem to have found reasons to switch to another mounting type. To the benefits of this decision are the tons of spare parts you can find online for both the X16 and X21, which will perfectly fit the new X22. In the original pack there are no prop guards. Note that because of the high voltage and powerful motors that it uses, the Bayangtoys X22 can actually be quite dangerous in case of impact with body parts and can seriously hurt you. Be extra careful and thoughtful about the others. The boards inside are also not a huge step up. In fact, most of what you see feels like a flashback to what Bayanhtoys produced like 3 years ago. But I can confirm that these are quite reliable. The really major update is the 3-axis gimbal with the camera. And you can control the camera angle via the transmitter. On theory, it sounds awesome, but the implementation is rather poor. First of all, since I'm a person very close to Mr. Murphy and his laws, my X22 had an issue with the gimbal. No matter what I tried, the gimbal was tilting to the left all the time, and that was leading to motor overheating. Looks like there is self-defense mechanism because it was shutting itself down when the temperature was rising rapidly. This made it impossible for me to get an idea about its true capabilities, but I can confirm one thing for sure. The FPV camera weighs around 20 grams and the lightest action cameras weigh around 80. which is 4 times more. And with bitterness, we can conclude that this good-looking gimbal is no good for action cameras, which limits the operation to the original FPV camera only. Nothing bad, just its quality is nothing even close to the quality of a modern action camera. Furthermore, the lack of stabilization and the bad color reproduction make me think that if it wasn't for the stabilization of the gimbal, this camera is actually worse than the one I've tested on the MJX B5W earlier this year. And over there, it is even easier to adjust the angle on a much more primitive mechanism. In the case of the X22, you do that via button clicks from the remote. There is no knob. It took me a while to figure out a way how to at least give a try to the gimbal. The best solution I came up with was to disable one of the axes. I simply made a modification to leave the motor spinning and block the axis from any kind of movements with a cable tie. Perhaps the issue was the gyroscope, but since the gimbal has no configuration port and a basic control board, troubleshooting at the moment of making this review was rather difficult. I still have mixed feelings about the flight experience. The first one was not too smooth, but then I made a few compass calibrations and noticed significant improvements. Other than that, the drone's vibrations feel exactly as strong as those on the X16, so if you want to get a smooth, non-shaky footage without jello effect, you have to use a really good camera with good EIS. And you have to have an awesome gimbal. Using the old Valkyrie G2D, I managed to squeeze some good-looking footage with the SJ8 Pro, which has almost GoPro-like stabilization. I'm sure you will agree with me that this footage is different league compared to the FPV cam. Sure, you have no actual first-person view of what's going on, but if you shoot close objects, it may be good enough even without it. I've only had the chance to make 5 flights with the drone before crashing it. Knowing that this is not enough to give a definite statement, but the overall impressions are positive. It performs X16-like, mostly because of the similar boards inside. The telemetry and some of the other nice features are good to have. Battery life is also comparable, up to 15 minutes and going down to 11-12 with the gimbal on. Control range should be no worse than its predecessors, where you have a 500-meter limit of detailed control, and likely the 5.8 Wi-Fi camera will drop the signal after 200 to 300 meters. To sum it up, the Bayangtoys X22 has some quite exciting positives, including the really powerful motors which guarantee you relatively long and stable flight, and the FPV camera, if we leave aside its image quality, brings a few really nice smart functions which you can call through the app. It is easy to repair with tons of spare parts that you can buy online for relatively good prices. To the minuses, we mentioned the decreased parts quality at the start. There seem to be some gimbal issues with the first batches, but I'm sure that in time Bayangtoys is going to make sure that these are gone. The camera quality is a bit of concern, so is the overall size of the drone. In times where Mavics are ruling the world with their foldable design, this body is pretty big, but at the end certainly fun to fly with. I think with the Bayangtoys X22 I'm done for today. It's probably gonna take a while until I'm ready to make a range test because just crashed. One of the props actually went away. I've tightened the props extra hard. I'm flying with the Bayangtoys X16 very often, and I know about the possibility of a prop going off. So I don't know, maybe here it wasn't tight enough. but it just went away. I thought they are also self-tightening, but apparently these are not. Don't do like me, double, triple check, make sure everything is super well tightened. I can only say I'm super happy it did not happen yesterday when I had a $200 camera below that. This is what is left from the gimbal. It's actually not too badly looking, but it is broken. It's definitely broken, and I don't see it recovering. At least the camera seems to be all right, and the drone seems to still have power. So let me go to the transmitter and figure out whether that's gonna work, because if it's still operational, I'll just purchase a new frame. I can get the frame of the Bayangtoys X16 and it should theoretically be the same. Okay, right here, and let me see the transmitter. It didn't beep, which to me is a good indication. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, let me show you. So there's a drone. Right, I'm not sure if it's visible, it should be. So if I lift it up. Okay, so most of it might be still alive. Well, okay, I want to finish this review with something positive. Despite the fact it's looking bad and it seems to be pretty broken, this one will recover. The electronics seems to be working, no visible damage on the GPS module. Wasn't that bad. It fell down from like 20 meters. I'm gonna see the telemetry in just a while. It flew well today. I made 3 new calibrations, which probably made it a bit more stable, and I like the fact it really was flying very stable. Maybe it was even a bit more stable than my Bayangtoys X16. As for the gimbal, although the gimbal on this unit was not operational, I truly believe that it's just an occasional unit that is wrong, and most likely as soon as you buy the camera with the 3-axis gimbal, you would get good stabilization. The image is of low quality, I would say rather low quality. You can get something similar with the Bux 5W or the Bux 3 Pro. If you really want to get decent looking footage, get better camera and get a proper gimbal. Actually, it's the second time ever I have a prop going out. The first time it happened with my Bux 3, but they weren't really tightened properly, while this here, I remember yesterday paid extra attention because I know what happens when this kind of drone falls down. Well, that's been it about the Bayangtoys X22. Despite the flaws, it is a good drone, but I don't like the pricing. I believe the pricing should be significantly revised, and I really hope that by the time you're watching this review, the pricing has changed. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends if you like it. And I don't know, be happy, enjoy life, make a lot of good things, and I'll see you soon.